All right. Hi. Hi, everyone. I'm Bernice D. I'm a learning experience designer and operations director of Happy Education Lab. We are a design and research studio whose mission is to make well-designed learning experiences for everyone. I have been a Gallup coach since 2020, and I lead with individualization, learner, arranger, responsibility, and achiever. Welcome. Welcome everyone to the second episode of the Strengths at Work webcast series. We are recording in Quezon City, Philippines on August 31st, 2023. The Strengths at Work free webcast series is a volunteer effort by Gallup certified Clifton Strengths coaches that focuses on Clifton strengths and how they manifest in different workplace challenges commonly found in Asian cultures. Today's workplace challenge is on motivating unmotivated teams. And note that the thoughts, opinions, and inputs you will receive today has not been approved and is not sanctioned or endorsed by Gallup in any way. Opinions, views, and interpretations of Clifton Strengths are solely the beliefs of the hosts and guest speakers. Let's begin. So I'd like to welcome the presence of our live audience today who are here from different parts of Asia. We have some Gallup Strengths coaches, strengths enthusiasts, L&D and OD practitioners. Welcome to the webcast. Our best way to communicate with you will be through the chat. So can we test it out? Say hi and share where you're from. Yeah, let's see. Where's everyone? Where's everyone from? We've got Alvin from Tondo. Welcome,
Hey
Alvin.
Alvin, welcome.
Yeah, keep them coming. We've got folks from May's from Navotas. Winnie is also from
So,
Navotans.
hey,
Welcome, welcome. Yeah, great, great. Keep them coming. Um, Wow, we've got one from Samar. We've got engineer Jonas Mahinay from Samar, um, and Michael from Iloilo. Thank you for joining our webcast. Keep them coming, and everyone else, feel free to go through the chat, see where everyone is coming from today. So throughout this webcast, we do invite you to comment, ask questions via our chat box. My co-host John will be the chat master, and he will be bringing your insights to the discussion during our 40 minutes or so together. So typically, we like to start our gatherings with a check-in. Check-in is our way to arrive and acknowledge that we all have different contexts right now. We're all online, but everyone is in a different space. So let's use the chat, okay, to answer the prompt. What's one thing you appreciated at work today? I can go first while you're possibly reflecting about what was one thing I appreciated at work. For me personally, it was being able to enjoy the challenge of taking on a role that I used to have and I haven't activated in a long while. So earlier I had a huddle and I was doing tasking, which I haven't been doing in a while. So I really enjoyed the challenge of warming up again in that role. Um, how about the others? What's one thing that you appreciated? Work from home. Yeah, the ability to work from home on these rainy days. That's one thing that Jerwin enjoys. Um, so while you're sending in your answers in the chat, I'd like to welcome my co-host John to introduce himself and check in. John, what's one thing you appreciated at work today?
Hello, Coach Bernice. So my name is John Baluyot, and I'm one of the co-founders of Positive Workplaces. So we're a management consulting firm that specializes in positive psychology at work. And one thing that I appreciate at work today is I got to bond with our interns. So it's our project phase right now in the internship, and that's the stage wherein they pitch projects to Execom so that we can approve those projects. And I got to have that moment with them immediately before this meeting. That's why I'm so energized because a lot of them also are familiar with their Clifton strengths. And we really empower them through the mentoring that we do in those programs. So yeah, back to you, Coach Bernice.
Thank you. Thanks, John. I'd now like to welcome our guest for today, Coach Val Bagios. Coach Val, could you introduce yourself and share what's one thing you appreciated at work today?
yeah, hello everyone. Thank you, Coach Bernice, Coach John, for having me in Strengths at Work, episode 2. Wow, very fresh. And my name is Val, and I've been doing coaching and consulting about leadership development in organizations for the last 10 years. And I also founded SOLA, or Organizational Leadership Academy. Some of my teammates are here also live with us today. So, and what we do is we do coaching and consulting around leadership development, in particular in Filipino organizations. So I'm so happy to be here. And one thing that I appreciate about my work today is that I can wake up a little bit late. So I woke up a little bit late. However, we had a family lunch earlier. So that as well, being in control of the schedule like that, I appreciate that about the work that we do as coaches. And I'm sure some of the coaches here, freelance coaches, could understand as well. But at the same time, one of my favorite things, I woke up late today, but I slept early morning last night, a while ago, at 2 a.m. I was so engrossed with the research that I'm doing about this podcast. So that's also one thing that I super appreciate about my work. I love researching about things that excites me, particularly things that's going on in the workplace, organization, leadership, and things like that. So yeah, excited for today.
Thanks, Coach Val. That's really connected. It's. I feel the energy of us like really enjoying and talking about what we appreciate about the work. And on the flip side, our topic is actually more about like unmotivated teams. To give a little bit of context of why we chose this as a topic, we chose this because something that we note about our natural talents is that they actually fall under certain domains by which we are strong in. And so, for example, I myself, I have high executing themes. I just enjoy doing things. Top
Hmm.
three in my top five, three in my top five alone are executing themes, and I thrive by doing things. So the moment other people might be more inclined to, build relationships, or they're more inclined to think and bring others with them. The moment I have to do something that isn't so much aligned with my domain or with what I'm naturally good at, I do struggle, and I do feel that like I'm falling into the doldrums of day to day. I'm not savoring things. I'm not smiling as much as I'm smiling now. So we decided to go deeper into this and truly understanding what is it that motivates us, what is it about teams that don't aren't as excited, and how we could possibly change that for people, for teams. So how about you, Coach Val? What has been your experience with being demotivated before, and what would you say are your sources of demotivation?
Wow. The motivation. And the funny thing is that, to be honest with you, I've been blessed with this work, and I couldn't imagine, being in a work that constantly demotivates me. Sure, there are still things that demotivates me here in the work that I do nowadays, but if I think about your question, I think about the time when I was doing something else, right? And um, one of the things that demotivates me is, I don't know if the audience can relate to this. If you are given a task and it feels like you are just order taking, I don't know if you guys can relate to that. It's as if you're just being doled out some task, and you just need to do it, and you don't understand why, and you don't understand the bigger picture, you don't understand where it's going. And sometimes in some situations, after the output is taken from you, you don't even get to see what happens to that output, right? So that's I'm just thinking about it right now, and it's it's I don't know, it makes me cringe that some of us have to do work that way. But yeah, that definitely demotivates me. um Maybe another thing that demotivates me is, I worked in IT for 10 years. And when you look around and then you see people not giving their best, and you're giving your best, that's demotivating for me. Like, I feel like, hey, am I the only one concerned about the task or the work or the project here? Why aren't everyone working as hard as I am, or at least showing interest, to the very least, no? So that's demotivating for me. Like, I hope that when I look around and I see my team, I hope that I see them as at least interested to the work that we're doing, right? So that's definitely demotivating for me. And I'm not here to judge the people who are probably not interested. There might be a dozen other reasons why that's happening, but I'm just saying it's demotivating for me. It's quite sad, actually, and I want to do something about that. In fact, when I was in IT, I did something about it, and I talked to them. I guess that's why I'm here right now in this work. Um, I guess one last thing that motivates me is when I'm thrown into an area of work, or maybe an industry or a situation where it's impossible to win. I think it's not written here. My number 6 is competition. And I think it affects that. Maybe strategic as well, but I just like to have the idea of having a chance to win. Don't have to be top 1 all the time. I could be top 3. At least I feel like in this area of work that I do, there's a chance for me to just be at the top. It's something very important for me. I think maybe strategic belief. Like I'm sure a lot of teams can relate to this as well, responsibility achiever. But when I do something, I I have this hope behind my head that I hope I can be the best at this. Something like that. So it's lingering in my head. And if I see that the task doesn't give me a chance to be the best at what I do, I kind of withdraw. So yeah, that's something that I needed to manage with myself. So yeah, those are the 3 things that I can recall that sort of like a demotivating factor for me.
Thanks, Coach Val. I'm curious, how would you uh, distinguish or differentiate the motivation from engagement, or
Yeah,
disengagement, or even motivation engagement?
yeah. Good question. And I know a lot of us here in the session today have heard employee engagement or engagement in general in any of the conversations about workplace and all of that. I think in the perspective of motivation, particularly in our webcast today, we might, I personally might interchange motivation and engagement. I realized that while I was researching about this topic, I realized that motivation, if defined properly, actually feels and looks like engagement. Pretty much. It's a very thin line. Engagement is your emotional and psychological connection to the work that you do, maybe even the company that you're working for. While motivation is your reason for doing things. However, if you look at it and you don't know what's going on in the head of the person, you see the same behaviors. A motivated person is this exhibiting the same behavior as an engaged person, and vice versa. A disengaged person would show this kinds of behavior, and you could easily assume that maybe this guy is demotivated here in this workplace. And while I was seeing it, the definition, it's quite the same. And I'm gonna share maybe later a really nice, simple definition actually that kind of encapsulates motivation that made it sound like engagement. So yeah, we might kind of interchange the 2 words today.
Thanks, Coach Val. Coach John, how about you? I'm curious to hear from your perspective, and please use the chat for the others, for our participants, if they wanna share, what they've experienced so far in about being demotivated.
Yeah.
Yeah, John, how about you? What's your experience so far?
Yeah, I wanna bounce off what Coach Val said about motivation and engagement. In one of the readings that I saw, one distinction that an author did for motivation versus engagement is that usually motivation is internal and engagement has an external effect. So, like for example, motivation could be something like relationships. You were mentioning a while ago, Coach Val, that when you see other people, not doing their best in their jobs, and then they are very passionate about it, then you start to doubt whether you are working with the right people, right? So that's relationships as a motivator.
Mm.
But engagement would usually come out of the actions that come from those motivations. So
That's right.
engagement will come in the form of, now I want to work a little bit better. Now I want to perform further. Now I want to be able to talk to these people even more, because the engagement usually is the external effect of good motivation, right? But if it's bad motivation, of course, it's the external effect would be disengagement generally. So that's one thing that I wanted to add. But I would also like to ask the audience, since I'm going to be your chat master for the day, please feel free to also share your sources of demotivation, because we want to be able to unpack that more, so that we will have more exchanges about the depth of what causes demotivation, what causes disengagement. And I will make sure to reply to you in the chat box while Coach Bernice and Coach Val are also talking to one another. But yeah, back to you, Coach Bernice.
Thank you. Thanks, Coach John, for also sharing your insights. Um, so I'm hearing the distinction where engagement is more external. I'm curious now, like, um, what are you seeing? Why it's so important for leaders to understand the value of engagement and motivation?
Um, for me, it's important that leaders understand the value of engagement and motivation. It has always been, I think for the longest time, managers, leaders have always seen the topic of motivation as soft. Soft meaning, it's nice to have, can't measure that. We can measure performance, can't measure motivation. And I guess that's where the studies in engagement comes in handy, because engagement and motivation is very much intertwined. And I like what Coach Vian said also in the chat, and Coach John was saying earlier, that if you look at it, if this was a movie, the camera of motivation is inside your heart or your mind, and the camera of engagement is outside, looking at what you're doing, right? So it's concerned about what is the impact or the effect. Now, the nice thing about this is that, well, motivation, if you look at it in an engagement perspective, or the impact or the behavioral perspective, is not soft. Because if a person is motivated, it affects performance, and performance affects business. It affects absenteeism, it affects attrition, it affects even uh, all sorts of business numbers. In Gallup's study, it affects even pilferage or people taking items away in the office. Do you imagine that? I mean, engagement or motivation even affects how they are mindful about the safety in the workplace, meaning they measured the number of accidents with organizations who have more engaged workers versus those who did not. And all of this business outcomes. And so for me, I mean, for the longest time, if we've considered motivation and engagement as something that is soft, now that we have more tools to measure engagement and motivation, and more tools even to measure the impact of it. For me, if you're a leader, I don't care if you're a team leader, manager, middle manager, or maybe a business owner, as long as you are managing and leading people, motivation and engagement must always be something that is part of your, should I say, people strategy. month on month, year on year even. So I'll give you one analogy um, about your role as leaders in motivating your people. It's like I always do this analogy. It's like a dance, and it might feel like if this was a dance, the leader could be the one who invited the employees to dance with them, something like that, right? And so if you invited them, you are also, especially if you're the business owner and if you have a little bit of higher influence in the organization, you can actually influence the lights, the music, the DJ, maybe the red carpet, and all of these things, maybe the air conditioning and all of these things. And if you are the leader and you can influence that, you can set that up so that your people whom you invited to dance with you will hopefully dance with you. And it's a decision that they have to make. Because if you can see motivation and engagement, well, you could say it's half-half. Half of it, maybe as a leader, you can prepare, you can do something about. But of course, we will not discount that there's also factors about the personal factors, the individual. Like maybe this person, no matter what you do in the organization, he or she is just not engaged here. He or she won't be motivated here for some reason. Maybe it's a personal relationship with someone in the workplace. Maybe it's the industry that you are in. Maybe it's the alignment to the organizational goal, the business goal, or maybe it's the alignment or the preference of the person when it comes to the industry that you guys are in, right? So there are things like that. But that's personal. You can't do anything about that. Maybe you can talk about it, but all you can do is to try to align the person, and we'll go there later. But if you are a leader, there's at least half, and I say at least because in Gallup study, 70% of the engagement of your people, 70%, whether they are engaged or disengaged, is at the hands of the manager or the leader, right? So at least half of that, in as much as 70%, part of those you can do something about. And hopefully that would be discussion that we could have today, and maybe you can the leaders that are listening in, maybe they could share their inputs as well.
Thanks, Coach Val. You've been mentioning Gallup and the the importance of tools, right? The power that these tools have. One of the tools is actually Clifton Strengths, and that gives us some insight into our talent themes. What role would you say our talents have on our motivations?
Super huge role. In fact, so as I was saying, I was researching this. There's an actual article from Gallup about the relationship of talents and motivation. You can Google that, but in fact, when you look at the insights of your Clifton Strengths report, for those of you who have taken Clifton Strengths, you can read their areas where it would tell you, based on your answers and based on the results that you have, it would give you an idea that you might be motivated in this area. And in my experience, as I coach people, as they read, they highlight the report, they actually affirm it that, hey, you know what? This is weird. Why? Because in my report, it says, I like teaching kids. And I'm actually a volunteer in our church to teach kids. And I've been seeing this, the specificity of the report of how it is expressing areas where a person would be motivated in, what kind of scenario, what kind of, maybe even specific situations. It's surprisingly and sometimes weirdly on point. They are actually weirded out by it. That how did this report know? And so for me, if we're talking about talents, which is the patterns of thoughts, feelings, and behaviors of people, it definitely will bring give you many clues to what perhaps could motivate or demotivate you as a person. And just by reading your report in itself, you will realize that, hey, yeah, this is true. And for those of you who have taken Clifton Strengths, you know what I'm talking about. When you start reading your report, start highlighting your strengths insights, especially the strengths insight guide report. You'll see that there are statements there that will connect to your motivational factors. And the nice thing about this is that the nice thing about this for you as a performer, as an employee perhaps, or as a person, is that your motivational factors is highly individual, meaning it would be extremely different from the person sitting next to you. Now, here's the challenge to managers and leaders. The motivational factors of people is highly individualized. Meaning, in as much as you're trying to manage the whole team, trying to, create events that would perhaps engage them or motivate them, would create activities that you think would motivate them and excite them to do work, to be aligned in your work goals, there is a big role for you to manage also the individuals in your team. And that's a role that as a manager or leader, it's for me, it's a role that only you can play, right? And I guess as we go along today, maybe we can talk about tools that you can use in order for you to do that.
Thank you. Coach John, anything to add?
Yeah, I wanted to read Coach Sarah Medillo's input in the chat box. So Coach Sarah is calling from Korea right now. She's listening in to us. She said, I like that leaders playing the leaders playing DJ analogy, or even a conductor helping the members play the music tune and creating beautiful harmonies. I think this is very related to what Coach Val was saying a while ago, that if you invited someone to dance as a leader, you have influence over a lot of factors around that person, like whether it's the lights, whether it's the sound, whether it's the floor, whether it's music, ganyan. But other than that, I also want to double down on what Coach Val said about if you are familiar with a person's talents, their natural recurring patterns of feeling, thinking, and behaving, that could be in itself a source of motivation. Because the feelings there, the feelings in the definition, they actually root in a person's values, like a person's belief systems.
Yes.
So, for example, Coach Balak, for example, for me, I'm a person that has competition as my second in my talent themes. If you want to be able to motivate me, give me an opportunity to compete. Give me an opportunity to be able to compare my performance against other people, because whenever I win, whenever I compare my performance against others, because it's natural for me, I get excited because that's how I'm naturally wired. So I really love what you said about that, Coach Val, and how we can, and even Coach Sarah, how we can influence factors around our teams in order to motivate them, especially using the information that we have about their own talent teams, same with ours. So yeah, back to you, Coach Bernice.
Thanks, John. So what I'm hearing so far is that from the leaders and how they can create increase engagement in their teams, and then motivation is coming more from like a more internal, intrinsic area. How if leaders can influence engagement, what do we have? And you mentioned like what techniques or tools could we possibly do so that we can also motivate ourselves as parts of a team?
Yeah. So I think the very first thing that the leader needs to understand is the mindset. When you're trying to, it always starts with the intention of the mind, right? Why am I doing this? Why am I putting this person in this kind of situation? Why am I training this person? Why am I coaching this person? And I think and this is one of the principles when we're leading with strengths already, that number one, always lead with a positive intent. When you are trying to engage a person, motivate a person, always look at it on a positive perspective. I think it would be better expressed as always set them up for success, right? Because for the longest time, managers, leaders have always been the police. I'm gonna I'm gonna wait for you until you do something bad and you do something wrong, and you're gonna get called to my office. I'm gonna, you know, um, punish you and all of these things, right? And I understand that. I understand accountability. I understand repercussions about things or behaviors that are not okay. That should be included in your policy. I get that, but I think nowadays, as our workplace is changing, I think it's a really good opportunity for management and leadership to be seen as not only as police. And I hope that we could get over that. I remember the times when it was a coaching conversation with your manager or your leader, and it's always being perceived as principal's office conversation. Like, oh no, you're being, you have a coaching conversation with our boss. So this is, a principal's office moment, and he or she is gonna tell you what you did wrong, and what are the punishment for that. I think that we should veer away from that kind of image to an image where yes, we are still implementing policies, but at the same time we are leading with positive intent, meaning the DJ or the organizer of that dance is here for you so that we all can dance. And to Coach Sarah's term, what was her term? Create beautiful harmonies together. So you can just imagine that. If a leader has that mentality that, hey, I'm here so that I'll set us up for success. All of us. That includes you. And I think that's the very first thing when you're trying to motivate. Sometimes some leaders, they're trying to motivate because it's one-sided. I have a stake here. I have a goal that I need to reach. I'm gonna motivate you, and so that I can push you, and that's okay. Of course, that's the result is the performance. But I hope that when you motivate people, I hope you're also thinking in your head, how can I help this person win? And when I say win, it's win also in their own terms, not only in your terms, not only in the organizational terms, because all those things should be aligned. And I think that brings me to the next mindset, alignment. I like what Daniel Pink wrote in his book, Drive, and it talks about motivation. He said, and this is not new. This has always been theories about motivation. He said people want autonomy. They want to be able to take control over the task. They want to be able to come up with their own plan of action, strategy, tactics on how to arrive to a result. Sometimes this is inhibited when the manager is trying to micromanage people. Like, this is the only way you should do it. Don't do it your way, and all of these things. It makes it hard for the person to realize, do I have freedom here to be creative and to arrive at the outcome, but using the same, using a different kind of action plan, different kind of behavior? What if I can close this sale using my own style and not copy pasting the style of my boss or my manager, right? Maybe leaders, you need to kind of give a little bit of autonomy on that person, because autonomy, according to Daniel Pink, motivates the person. And you know what? You don't even have to refer to that book. Come to think of it, you will have more autonomy, means more ownership to the task, or even to the performance, or even to the goal or to the outcome. We are more motivated with autonomy because it allows us to have more ownership. Number two, mastery. Mastery is when the person wants to be better and better. And all of us, regardless of who you are, what your personality would be, nobody in this world will tell you, you know what, I don't want to improve ever. I just want to be stagnant in this kind of state for the rest of my life. Nobody, because the only thing that would be constant for a person is growth. The person will always look for growth, right? So for me, another thing that a leader could do is make sure that the person you're trying to motivate has an opportunity to learn and grow as a professional, or maybe even as a person in general, wherever this person is in the organization. And lastly, purpose. And I'll say purpose um also as alignment. This is what I'm talking about, because this person's personal goals, personal intentions, must align to the team goal, which is hopefully aligned to the organizational goal. And this alignment, once it's clear, is super effective in motivating people, because they will feel that they won't feel that, I am just a cog in a very big machine, and I'm replaceable, and if I conk out, if I don't perform, I can easily be kicked out here. While that is true, there's also power on the opposite perspective of it, that hey, what I do here, this little thing that I do in my role, is part of a bigger picture. And that bigger picture is something that I believe in. And sometimes these are the things that leaders forget to kind of download to their one downs, to their direct reports, to their team members. That, hey, you know what? This is our overall goal, and this is our overall mission, or this is the advocacy that we have. And once the people understand that, and that little thing, no matter how small that is that you're doing, no matter how small that task, that project is, will contribute to the bigger goal. If you like this bigger goal, if you align to this, then that's it. That's the effect of what you're doing. And what you'll realize is that this kind of management and leadership will attract more people who will love to align to this goal, and will, on the contrary, alienate people who might not be aligned to the purpose and the mission of the organization. And eventually, you know what? If you alienate a person, they will quit. They will get out. And there's nothing wrong with that. They're not bad people. You're not a bad organization. There's just misalignment there.
Alignment.
And that's okay, and that's fine. And I always tell that to leaders. That's fine. If people realize that, hey, you know what, maybe I'm not aligned with the bigger mission of this organization. Fine. Because life is short. Go find alignment somewhere else, right? So those are three things: autonomy to the work of the person, mastery, allowing this person to have opportunities to learn and grow, and purpose, understanding how this person's personal goals, personal intentions align to the bigger picture of the organization. And I think that one of the best ways to be able to talk about this is coaching in the organization. Coaching, because like I said, yes, you are managing the team, but managers, leaders, you're also managing the individuals in your team. And when you manage the individuals, these are one-on-one conversations, because there are just some topics that needs to be discussed on a one-on-one basis. And I hope that you guys are doing one-on-one coaching with your direct reports and talking about these things. How can I make you more autonomous in the role and the tasks? How can I give you more opportunities of professional and personal mastery? How can I give you an opportunity to align with our bigger goal, bigger mission? Or what are the parts of our mission that might connect to you more, so that I can put you more in those kinds of projects, right? Setting you up for success. Again, leading with positive intent, right? Again, helping them to dance, right? So those things. And the conversational tool for me, in my experience, is coaching. I've been using coaching for the last 10 years, and this has been a super powerful tool for leaders and managers to have these kinds of conversation with their direct reports. And it's not going to be awkward. because even though you might touch on personal things, sure, personal goals, intentions, purpose, mission, and all of these things, it's not going to be awkward because professional coaching is structured. It's structured in a way that you have clear cut conversational items for every session. Let me stop there,
Yeah.
Coach Bernice and Coach John. Maybe you have questions and thoughts that you might want to share.
Think you know what I'm getting is that even as we can also use this framework or these talk points, like asking ourselves, even, do I have enough autonomy? If, let's say, I'm not a leader, and we might have some listeners who aren't leaders, who are not actually managing a team, but they're questioning their motivations or their level of engagement. You know what, I'm feeling like I'm not in it 100%, and they can actually use this tool, the question, ask themselves, like, how much control do they have over the work that they're doing? um right, are they seeing continuous improvement? Are they learning something? Are they getting better at something? And then, if it's aligned with the purpose that they have set for themselves as people. So leaders can use it also as a way to check in these three key questions to bring to their direct reports. And those who don't have any direct reports, they can also use it on themselves. um
Definitely.
right, not even if they don't have strengths coaching available, this is a good starting point to start motivating unmotivated teams and finding out, well, where are we not aligned? Is it the purpose? Do you want more mastery? Do you not feel autonomous enough, or do you not have the agency over the work that you're doing? That's what I'm
Right.
taking from that. Yeah. um we should be, actually, it's almost time, we should be wrapping up. John, is there anything that you'd like to add to that before? If not, feel free to carry on and synthesize what we've talked about so far.
Yeah, before the synthesis, I think this is one important point that needs to be answered for a lot of people. Um, I really liked when Coach Val emphasized those three important factors in terms of motivation, like alignment, mastery, and purpose. It's very analogous to the well-being model of Ryan and Desi, that the self-determination theory that talks about competence, autonomy, and connectedness or relationships. But however, one of the things that always bug me is while for us coaches, it's easy to say that coaching is the solution. For a lot of Asians, it's not easy to actually jump into the coachy hat because there are a lot of stereotypes and stigma around it. People will think that if you need to be coached, that must mean that you are weak or incapable. Or if you need to be coached, sometimes it's also analogous to being counseled, especially for people who do not know what it means. And what that does is we are not able to get the motivation or the drive directly from the coaches to ask for help. So maybe one last question that I have, like this is just passing it, would be, Coach Val, how as leaders, how do you think we we can take it upon ourselves to be able to motivate more people to jump into coaching as a tool or as a mechanism to help them, become the best version of themselves and get more motivated?
Right.
And to Coach Bernice, maybe you also have an answer for.
Go ahead,
Right.
Coach Val.
Right. Okay. Um, I always tell this, no. So we help leaders, managers in organization how to coach, right? I always say this: no trust, no coaching.
Hmm.
They don't trust you, they will hesitate having a coaching conversation with you. It's true whether you're an internal coach, maybe you're a leader, a manager trying to coach your people, or it's even true with us. If we sense, I've experienced that. Like the person says, and I thanked her for that because she said, Coach, I'm not really comfortable sharing things with somebody that I just met because we were coaching them and we just met session one, all these things. I put away my notebook and we just talk and discuss and I have to align with this person. And I guess this is a reminder for leaders that you might be doing coaching and you might see coaching as just one of the tools to how do you say, to push your people to perform. Yes, that is true. Coaching is a very powerful conversational tool to actually help your people to perform. But you have to remember that coaching is a conversation. Yes, it's a tool, but it's a conversation that you have. And in that conversation, the intention must be clear. My intention is to help you be better at the work you do. My intention is to help you see where you might align to the bigger goals of our company. My intention, and so therefore, leaders, what I'm trying to say, or managers, what I'm trying to say is that before all these things have, all these coaching sessions will happen, you have to be able to express it verbally to the person that you're trying to lead, what the intention of the coaching is. Because tama, Coach John, you're right. Coaching has had many reputations, and some of those reputations, especially from other industries, coaching is a negative conversation. Coaching has always been, oh no, I'm gonna get coached by my manager. Oh no, I'm in trouble. All these things, right? And that has to change, because coaching is a wonderful opportunity for the person, the leader, to be able to talk to the employee or to the team member about things that might really just be for a one-on-one kind of conversation. And if that person doesn't trust that conversation, let alone that person doesn't trust you as a leader, then really you will have a problem. So a lot of the, I guess, pre-work will be on the pre-work of trust. Trusting your intention. Why are you even coaching me? Is this about my performance? Is this about me? Are you telling me that I'm a bad employee and all of that? That has to be cleared. Because if that's not clear, no trust, no coaching.
Thank you. How about you, Coach Bernice?
For me, on the topic of like motivating someone, when I tend to think about what is the outcome that we're hoping to achieve together. It's not what you're doing wrong. It's not about what I'm doing wrong, but more where are we headed. So it's really all for alignment from a leader perspective. If I'm coaching someone, but if it's me on my own, just trying to understand how can I be more motivated as a member of the team, I think coaching, just as what Coach Val was saying, it doesn't even have to be so formal.
Yeah.
It can just be there's something called peer coaching. Like I could just ask someone, hey, how am I doing? Like what are you seeing? How let's use the three, like how masterful am I? Do I get it? Do you see that I get it? Do you see that my intentions are clear, that I'm aligned with the purpose of the group? And these are very candid conversations that out of the blue someone might find you strange at first, because it's not something we usually do, I think, in Asian cultures, to check in on your performance, because we want to assume that we're already the best all the time. But to approach it from, you know what, I'm learning here. I'm not a master yet, and acknowledging that we all have different starting points, we all have different talents. And so for me, it's more about that. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Coach Bernice. And I just want to honor also the people in the room. A lot of them are coaches, and a lot of them are more experienced coaches than I am. And I really want to be able to honor that coaching profession is a very noble thing, because there's so many people's lives changing out of the conversations that are happening through coaching sessions themselves. And I also want to honor the people who are here in the room who, of course, want to learn more about different tools to motivate people, coaching as one of them. So let me now do my job and synthesize some of the important key points that were talked about a while ago. The first one is the importance of understanding motivation of our employees. Because it has business outcomes. Do not understand them, we will not be able to address the negative business outcomes like absenteeism, attrition, performance issues, and to a certain extent, Coach Val even mentioned pilferage. Like there are certain studies that show to that effect. Along those lines, there was also a discussion between the difference between motivation and engagement. Motivation being a more internal source of a person's well-being and satisfaction, while the engagement is a more external factor that drives people to act a certain positive way. So those two are very connected, interrelated, and sometimes being interchangeably used. The other part is also what Coach Val said about the different factors that you can consider in conversations when you are taking a look at people's motivation. Number one would be alignment of intentions. Second is mastery. And the third one is purpose. So got this from Daniel Pink. And of course, the tool that Coach Val also mentioned about those is coaching, because a lot of those topics are actually coachable areas, coachable conversations. And the reason why coaching would be one of the best things that we could use in relation to it is because it's very one-on-one, it's personal. However, just like any other personal conversation, according to Coach Val also, no trust, no coaching. So that means that one of the most important skills that has to be built by coaches, regardless of which level you are in, is building trust. Because apparently it is a prerequisite for you to be able to have a meaningful coaching conversation with anyone. So how was that, Coach Bernice?
Thank you. Thank you. I really like that we ended on trust, because I realized now I'm starting to think about like what self-trust even plays in motivation. Like, do I actually trust that I'm doing a good job? Does that even help me, motivate me? So if do I trust myself, and do I trust others who are with me on the team, and how we can motivate each other? Thank you. Thanks, Coach John and Coach Val. And thank you everyone for participating. To those who are keeping the chat active, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts and your insights. We'd like to thank Coach Val, who leads with strategic communication, individualization, belief, and relator. They were shining through and through today. Coach John, who has significance, competition, maximizer, futuristic, and activator. If you want to connect with either of them, just message, or myself even, just message or send an email to learn@positiveworkplaces dot com, is it, sorry, dot com, dot
.org.
org, sorry, dot org. And yeah, we can put you in touch. So just a note, Gallup Clifton Strengths and the 34 Clifton Strengths theme names are trademarks of Gallup Incorporated, and all rights reserved. So note again, one last time, that the thoughts, opinions, and inputs you received today has not been approved and are not sanctioned or endorsed by Gallup in any way. Opinions, views, and interpretations of Clifton Strengths are solely the beliefs of the hosts and guest speakers. You can find us on LinkedIn. Just search Strengths at Work to follow the webcast. This is the second of a series of 8. We will announce our third series by following our pages. Before we check out, so we started with the check-in, we will end with the checkout. But before we end, we have a few, like just 2 slides, 2 announcements. One from our very own founder of SOLA, Coach Val.
Right. Thank you, Coach Bernice. So I was talking about coaching earlier, and if you are a leader, a manager, supervisor, and if you're dealing with people, I want to invite you to our masterclass in organizational leadership coaching. This is our sort of a flagship course for our group, SOLA. It's gonna happen first quarter of 2024. We're trying to finish the previous batches right now. It's 2 levels actually. We're trying to finish the last level this November, and after that we'll kick off the first quarter of 2024 with another level 1 course. So if you're interested, please scan the QR code, take a picture of it, or go to solacademy.ph/masterclass. I'm not alone in this course. I'll be joined by 2 other veteran coaches, Coach May Soriano. I'm sure at some point you will meet her in Strengths at Work as well. Coach May has been doing coaching for like 20 years. I'm always joking, Coach May, when I was a student, you're already coaching. So Coach May has she's a multi-awarded coach, not only here in the Philippines, but outside, all over the globe. And Coach Lippy Lipio, he's been doing coaching and executive leadership coaching for 12 years and more. And the three of us will be teaching this course, and scan the QR, go to our website, and we'll keep you posted for the announcement of the actual dates of the 2024 run of this flagship course. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Coach Val. Coach Bernice, do you mind if I also invite them to the Strengths Conference? So we have a gift for everyone. One of the biggest conferences for strengths enthusiasts, practitioners, and coaches that's happening on October 27, 2023. This is a steal because this is only 2,500 pesos. And this is for six plenary speakers and one keynote speaker. And your lunch and your snacks are already included in the package. The 2,500 pesos per person is only available until September 15 because that is the early bird rate. So the regular rate will then come afterwards. So we only have 200 slots and there are already 27 people who reserved them. Please make sure to get the slot by taking a picture and taking the QR code. This is one of the biggest strengths gathering in the Philippines. And even our friends from different parts of Asia, if you want to join us, you are all welcome to join us as well because of the very cheap food, the cheap flights, and the cheap registration fees for this conference. So thank you so much. And I hope you can join all of us there. We will be there. So yeah, back to you, Coach Bernice.
Thank you. Thanks, Coach Val, Coach John. Such wonderful. I mean, we were talking about the value of coaching. It's such a great program that they're offering now. It's wonderful to hear that there's a second batch, and our conference is coming up soon. So Burr months, Christmas months are coming. Give it as a gift to yourself, to your friends, to your leaders. We'd love to see you at the conference. All right. So like I mentioned, we started with a check-in. We're gonna end with a checkout, and we'd really love to hear your answer to the prompt. I used to think that blank. Now I think that blank. So please use the chat. Let us know what did you used to think, and what do you think now? Let's how about you, Coach John? What's your answer to the prompt?
For me, I think it's a little bit on a skills level. I used to think that anyone can coach, just like that, because like we can always say that, I coach someone in the debate team, I coach this person for this, etc., etc. But I realized also that as it depends on like what areas of life, work, or personal stuff you're coaching in, because you're gonna have a very personal conversation with another person, and that requires a certain level of skill. Building trust is one of them. So if you're not the type of person who's very high yet in the skill of building trust, then how will you be able to navigate through a conversation, especially if it's, for example, with a stranger, right? Or with an office mate who you don't know that well yet because they don't open up a lot to you. So I used to think that anyone can just coach. That is true now. That is true still, but I think it requires a certain level of skill to become a really great or good one. So that is my learning for today. How about you, Coach Val? Oh, you're on mute, Coach Val.
Sorry. Okay, so I used to think that motivation solely depends on tangible material things, and that's still true. Extrinsic motivation like money or whatever it is that you're aiming for, on a material or tangible perspective, that's still true. It could still motivate you, but sustainable motivation has also a lot to do with the intrinsic ones, and the intrinsic ones are what I shared with our audience today, right? Those things that you need to ask yourself or to ask your teammates whether they have that, or in a scale of 1 to 5, how much autonomy do they feel they have, how much alignment do they feel they have, and all of these kinds of conversation, I think is would help you as leaders bring more sustainable motivation to the people, because tangible things, it will only get higher and higher. Like if it's money, the value will just get higher and higher. And once you stop and you stagnate, then motivation drops, right? It will only be as good to a certain extent, but after that, sustaining it, maybe even having exponential returns on motivation relies more on intrinsic kinds of motivations. That's something that I realized while I'm studying about this podcast.
Thanks, Coach Val. For me, I used to think that motivation was just solely something, just something I have to work on and work with. But today, after this conversation, I do realize the importance of the leader and the manager in feeling and knowing and trusting that that how I feel about the work that I do and how motivated I show up. Um, it's just a huge influence as well, and knowing, being able to articulate what my needs are, what my purpose is, what I'm good at, is really key to staying engaged as a teammate, as a leader. Yeah. So thank you everyone, thank you everyone for participating. In the chat, I think we've got a few folks. uh Coach Brian said he used to think that autonomy, mastery, and purpose is for subordinates. Now he thinks that it's useful to check his own motivation. Michelle mentioned, I used to think that success was solely determined by natural talent. Now I think that success is a result of consistent effort and a growth mindset. Yeah. And one more, Astral said, I used to think that it's all about performance. Now I think that as leaders, our mission is to set up people for success. Thank you very much for participating in our webcast, and we hope to see you in the next one. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much,
Bye.
everyone. Thank
Thank
you, Coach.
you.
See you again in our next episode soon.
Thank
Stay
you
tuned.
guys.
Bye.
Okay.